Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
Just to remind everybody that language usage and content that we provide here may be disturbing, disgusting, probably will be and should be. Words like bloody custard and words that rhyme with that may be featured. Actually will be featured. In fact, perhaps will only be featured. Just warning you.
You're listening to Cyrus Says.
All right, on Cyrus Says, we meet Ronnie, Allman, Sean Graham, two aspiring filmmakers, very interesting young men who are out to teach us about the Ramayana. And when I say teach us, I mean that in a very nice way. Indophiles, they love the country, obviously haven't been here long enough, but that will change. We'll talk to them about their lives, where they came from, and why they haven't returned home yet.
Cyrus Says we have other shows too. You should check them out.
Hi, I'm Amit Gurbaksani.
I'm Purva Mehra.
And I'm Pranati Datta. And we're from a city website called The Daily Pow. And we have a new podcast called The Powcast. So you can listen to us on the IndusVox SoundCloud page as well as iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn.
You're listening to Cyrus Says.
Okay, I just want to say one thing at the top of the show, and that is do not call me uncle. Unless, of course, you are my, one nephew and two nieces and one German Shepherd and one Beagle. Other than that, nobody else to call me uncle, all right? I want to explain this concept in India. We go around calling people uncle and auntie because they look older than you. Why? How does it make anybody happy? They're not really your bloodline. And you know that it's not a nice thing to say to someone. I don't want to be called uncle. I don't want to be your uncle. And I don't want to be anybody's uncle. I feel terrible. I feel aged. I feel bad. I feel sad. So avoid uncle. Uncle is terrible. And if you have to say Uncle G. Show some respect. It's called Cyrus Says.
And that's what Cyrus Says.
Okay, on Cyrus Says, we have Ronnie Allman. I hope I got that right. And Sean Graham. I hope that's the right pronunciation.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Ronnie and Sean is right. I know that. I know a couple of Ronnies and Seans in India, so I'm okay with that. They both grew up in Texas. Quick word on them. Met in San Francisco. Decided to come together. And here's the catch. To make the Ramayana, which is an Indian epic as far as I know, but I belong to a global society now. I don't think we should try and hold on to things. Everything is for the world. Unless it's oil. That's with you guys, from what I gather. Yeah, so guys, welcome to the show, and let's just start there before I introduce you and go into your backgrounds. There's lots to talk about, very interesting biodata on both of you, the profiles, but Ramayana? Wait, how's that flavor of the month suddenly in the US?
Well, maybe it's... Not to make it too much of like the oil thing. We just want to come and take all your stories.
Ronnie, may I request you to talk in a higher octave because you sound really masculine and baritone-like, and I then sound like the female on the show, which is not a sexist comment.
Does this help?
He's got a fantastic voice. We should use him for voiceovers. Sean, this man can make money.
Yeah.
I say leave the Ramayana aside. Let's use him. All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to the Ramayana, we have been back in San Francisco. We've been wanting to make something in the sci-fi fantasy realm for a while. It's been just an urge we've been trying to satisfy. When we started looking at mythological adaptations, we were just looking at, the Chinese mythology, you have your Greek mythology, your Egyptian, your Roman mythology. We've seen these time and time again in global scale. We haven't really seen any Indian films made for English-speaking audiences in global markets.
What are you saying? Haven't you heard of Quantico?
Films.
It's sort of a long film. They all merge now.
We're starting to see them nowadays. We have $1 Million Arm. We have, there's these few examples, but we haven't seen these epics. We've seen the Greek mythologies time and time again. We've seen the swords and sandals between all the Romans fighting. India is so rich in terms of this story content. The Ramayana itself is one
Sorry
of
to interrupt. Let me just understand here, Ronnie. So you don't really have any Indophile sort of... Sean. I'm so sorry. It's a visual medium. They understand where we're going. Yeah. Sean, you're not... There's no Indian background whatsoever. You never come to India. You never studied Indian mythology or culture, etc. You just decided, let's go for something which you don't know about.
It's really just about the food.
Oh, it's about the food. Let me tell you, the Ramayana, the food wasn't that good. I've paid 77 points out. Terrible banquets. Not happening. Yeah. So very interesting. So you thought maybe this is the way to go, India.
I mean, maybe I got a little bit of in college, religious studies classes. We get introduced to the Bhagavad Gita. You get a little bit of the Indian mythology. Maybe in watching Clash of the Titans, that old claymation film, we saw, a Vishnu or a Krishna kind of incarnation.
Not bad.
But we really haven't seen...
I don't remember these incarnations. I've seen the same film, but you get more out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just really don't get the chance to get exposed to a lot of this Indian culture until maybe the past 5-10 years. We've started to see a lot of them, the Indian presence in the United States especially come into the mainstream.
Right.
Where it's not just in our companies, but it's also in our media, it's in our...
But that's if we'll be allowed. It all depends on whether, who comes to power. I mean, if Trump comes to power, am I allowed? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we have to get this film out quick.
Yeah, we need to be careful because my sister's married to Mexicans as well. So I mean, there's no end to that. Yeah. All right, but is it true that he doesn't speak at all, Ronnie? Ronnie doesn't speak at all.
He
no,
doesn't speak.
I do.
You do? Okay, Ronnie, only you now.
Okay.
Let's talk about the birth of this Ramayan idea, this germ. Apparently, you said too much overexposure to Greek and Roman, etc., etc. So you want to go a different way and.
Well, Sean approached me. We actually met at a bar.
Excellent. Always the best place to meet.
Always the best place, right? And he's like, I have this story. You probably never heard it before. And I was like, you're probably right. It's from India. I'd never heard this story. So we started talking for a couple hours, and he approached me about the Ramayana. I was like, this is a huge story that so many people know about in a part of the world. Why can't we bring this to America or just the Western culture and tell this grandiose story? We have Lord of the Rings. We have all those mythology
Here's
things.
the bad news. When you bring the story to America, you also bring the Indians with it. And we never go back. Remember that.
Right.
Sorry, go on.
It was just so intriguing, and I wanted to learn more and more and more about it. And I've been on this project since July, and I've learned so much. Sean has so much knowledge on this. And Sean, how long have you been studying the Ramayana?
It's been about 6-7 months in terms of like actually sitting down, reading in-depth study.
Have you read the whole thing? Obviously, you read the whole thing, start to finish.
The English version, I haven't. My Hindi is not that good yet.
Yeah, no, the actual version was in another language, not even Hindi.
Yeah.
That language doesn't exist. It's really, it's absurd how things change over the years. Possibly lost in translation as we go along also. Can I put you on the spot and ask you, can you tell us the story in a nutshell? Just to test you, because you are American, clearly from your accents. Yeah. Okay, it's all on you, Sean.
Okay, quick summary of the Ryan. The story is about people trying to fulfill their duties and maybe going astray because of that. Now, that's the philosophical answer. Then the simple, straightforward story answer.
1 minute, let me call my aide. I need a copy of the Ramayana. That's just not the way I just, what the hell? You intellectualize everything. It's all about fighting, running away in the forest, chasing the woman, bringing her back.
Simple story.
And it's in monkeys.
2 brothers in the forest,
right,
trying to save one of their brothers' kidnapped wives from this great king from a giant golden island. That will sell anywhere.
Yes, which is Sri Lanka, which I've been to, and believe me, it's lovely.
I haven't been yet.
Oh, it's lovely. But do you know that there are other versions of the Ramayana out there in Orissa and other places in India, which are juxtaposed differently completely? It's almost like paradoxical, the storyline.
Yeah, I mean, Sri Lankan specifically. I mean,
there you go.
Exactly.
So
Ravan isn't necessarily
the good guy.
demon king.
He's a good guy.
He's praised. And I think there's some insight into that, seeing these 2 sides of the war and being able to look onto the
Rashomonic sort of thing where perspectives change. It's very interesting. Would you do that? Would you do that with the Ramayana today? Would you try and show different versions?
I would say we are, absolutely. 100%.
Oh, excellent.
I mean, the Ramayana, yes, it's big in India, different in Sri Lanka. But also, think about Indonesia. Think about, Malaysia, where there's also...
It's there in Indonesia and Malaysia. Of course, we had it.
Huge, yeah.
What are you saying? You guys have really done a lot of work and got to travel as well. Yeah. Okay, who's your favorite Ramayana character?
Well, while we were talking about Ravan, I would say he's one of the biggest. Ravan, Hanuman, and Lakshman, I'd say would be my favorite 3.
10 heads. Sean, Ronnie, 10 heads is a lot. I mean, brushing teeth would be like about an hour and a half. Just think about that.
He goes through a lot of toothpaste, but he's got the money for it.
Because apparently the heads are a sign of intelligence, if I remember correctly. Since you're now the expert. Yeah. This is how the world has changed. The Indian has to ask the American about the Indian mythology. Hey, c'est la vie, that's life. That's how it's all changed.
Well, think of it this way. Ravan was already someone that was one of the greatest statesmen around. He was well educated. He was a great musician. Think of him not as physically having 10 heads, but being able to look at everything from the perspective of 10 heads.
Right.
Think of him as a guy that was named by 10 heads.
It's a metaphorical sort of thing. Yeah. You're almost talking to me like I'm 7 now. I'm about to call you uncle, which I said that from the show. No one
as long as you say Uncle G, it's okay.
Uncle G is fine. Is it good? Yeah. So you're enjoying the country? Let's step away from Ramayana. We'll go back to it in a minute. Enjoying India? You've been here for some time?
It's amazing. I mean, this is my first time traveling here. Yeah, for both of us, I think.
And only Mumbai, or you've done the circuit?
Been to Jaipur, been Shillong.
Yes, this is the circuit. Jaipur, Shillong, Goa.
We made a bit in Delhi, Dehradun as well.
Okay, Delhi is a punishment. Thanks for coming. And Dehradun's lovely. Did you?
Yeah,
I didn't get the pleasure of going, but Sean
okay.
He has to earn it still.
Is this wrecking that you were doing?
Yeah.
So you're looking at a lot of different locations, huh?
We wanted to find parts of India that we haven't seen on the screen yet. Shillong is a great area out there. There's only been a few movies that have started to, like Rock on Tour was filming out there recently.
But do you realize that it's a very geographical film? From what I remember, the Ramayana, it starts with northern India. Yeah. The fight is to southern India, and where the Bangalore area, the Karnataka area is where he meets the Monkey King, etc., Hanuman. Yeah. And then it goes to Sri Lanka. So actually, if you follow the geography, you're going to be broke in like 5 minutes.
That's kind of why we were traveling all over. Because this is a story of journey, too. They're going.
Yeah, it is. It's a very journey geographical story. Yeah, exactly. It's constant move. But let me quickly get back to it. So you will shoot this film right now here in India. Mm-hmm. You've already cast for it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And are we going with the typical, Shakespearean style of mixed races and this and that? How does it?
No. Well, but that's one thing we want to do with our mind. I don't know if you saw Exodus, Gods and Kings, and Ridley Scott, bless his heart. That entire cast is...
You're about to criticize Ridley Scott. You're making your first film with a bless his heart and get the hell out of here, you loser. All right, fair enough. Go on.
This is the thing with Hollywood. Like, a lot of the films that we see that are about other cultures' stories are just completely whitewashed. And it's the nature of trying to get your audience to come to the theaters. You have the biggest stars. They just happen to have white faces and white names, even if it's an Egyptian story. Same thing with Indian stories. Like, we want to be able to bring Indian casts to tell an Indian story with Indian accents. We think that people are ready to see it. So we're casting everyone in India.
Have you heard all our accents?
There's a lot of them.
Some could take some time. A simple battle will take 45 minutes. Kill him! I will kill your Mars!
We're working.
We'll do plenty of rehearsals.
Use the NRIs. What do they do in America anyway? One motel, one other motel. Forget it. All right. So very interesting. So, and this is going to be a cast of people who are not particularly big stars in India, I presume?
Well, actually, we're doing a mix. So right now, we'll be able to tell you about one of our cast members in particular, one of our favorites. We've been finding people to play Ram, Lakshman, Sita, but I think our biggest ally in this.
There was a huge pause there. It's got to be big now. Because I didn't play music, we didn't have anything. There's no reverb coming. Dang, dang, there you go.
I'll just say he's kind of a bad man.
You can't see the name?
He's kind of a bad man.
The Gulshan Grover?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, so you've done your Bollywood research. He's a lovely guy.
He's going to be doing our biggest band.
He's also crossed over and done a few films there and a few roles here and there across the world.
Yeah, that's the great thing. He's going to be able to bring this audience. He's going to be able to bring audiences from both the US and India.
Okay.
Plus, he
looked the part in your mind. You have a look in your mind. I mean, this is all an imagination. You're talking about a race you're not fully comfortable with, or a culture which you're getting to know. Yeah. So in your mind, do you say, oh, Ram is like this and Ravan is like that? And do you have sort of physical thing in your mind of what they are and what they embody?
Well, we know the way it's been interpreted. And now we're stepping back and trying to looking at it in a broader view and dissecting these characters of who they really are, not the way they've always been portrayed. So when we saw Gulshan, we saw him as Ravan, because Ravan has been portrayed as a bad man before.
Right.
But he has all these different personalities in him, and we think Gulshan has all those abilities that can come out as a character. So it's not just, he's not a bad guy.
Yeah. And this black and white portrayal has to end, I think, because that's not what the book is about.
It's done.
Right? It's about trying people understand it's all grey, for good and bad. But I want to ask you a slightly controversial question, because now in India, we're in the middle of this intolerance debate, and some people feel they're stifled, some people say you're overreacting, whatever. It's a new democracy. Started in 47, actually went to sleep for 20 years and then restarted. Do you feel that when you touch these religio-epico areas, that it could be dangerous and difficult, because we do have all kinds of people rioting over every small thing in India, and everybody's not as nice as I am, boys. I got to tell you.
Sure.
They get touchy about anything.
I kind of hope so. I mean, honestly, if people start rioting over a film we make, that means we're doing something.
Yeah.
People are paying attention. But
somebody will say, you're foreigners, what do you know about the epic? How do you interpret it this way? How do you make Ravan look like such a good guy? I'm just thinking aloud for a second.
Well, we're playing a balance. First off, this is our adaptation. We're making a film. It's obviously not rewriting the book, but even when Tulsidas rewrote the Ramayana to bring it into a modern age, he made some changes. I mean, at that time...
They were very tolerant then, and nobody was reading. He read it to his children, and they went to sleep. He said, no more, Dad, no more. I don't want to hear any more of the story. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, he did something as big as changing the god that Ram and Lakshman prayed to.
Oh, is it?
It was with Tulsidas that we brought the Shuras and the Devs to be both...
Come on, test me. Ask me who was the god. Come on.
At this time, Ram is supposed to be the incarnation of Vishnu.
Right.
So the original Ramayana, the Devs, everyone from Ayodhya, they worship Vishnu.
Right.
When Tulsidas came along, it changed. It became Shiv. It
was
an idea to try to combine these two people into showing that these races, these two people, these opposing sides, are actually there.
But there's actually two religious schools there. The Vaishnavite and the Shaivite is absolutely different. Amazing.
So, I mean, that's changed. Even from Valmiki's Ramayana, it was different. And this is,
Okay, Sean, stop showing off.
That's why I hang around this
He's
guy.
Great, man. He's making me feel inadequate. I'm an Indian. I'm going to go home and apologize and return my passport to my parents and say, these foreigners come here, they know everything.
Who knows, maybe I'm just lying about it.
No, you seem passionate and happy. And that's because you don't live here, but you like our literature. See, that's the whole thing. All right, we'll leave the intolerance aside for a second. The other question, that logistical question, it's going to be a short film first, so just take us through what the whole vision is here.
Well, Have you seen Game of Thrones? Have you watched it?
I have watched a bit of it. I like the Labrador, but other than that, yeah, whatever.
I've made it through 2 episodes. So
Yeah, I'm telling you, slightly overrated if you want to discuss that.
Oh God, no,
let's not get into that.
I might start over if you
I have
guys
the same situation with my wife and my friends. They all like Game of Thrones, but for me, I don't know, man. It's just like a bunch of staff discussing life in an English mansion. I mean,
Sean's like, sit down and watch this with me, and we made it through 2 episodes, and I just fall asleep.
Really?
I think it visually, aesthetically, it's amazing.
Ramayan will have less clothes. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, what we want to do is the reason I brought up that is because they have a huge cast for Game of Thrones. It's almost like it'd be an epic, that's currently being written.
Right.
But the thing is, so how do you handle such a huge cast and how do you transition between them and still tell a coherent story? With the Ramayan, we're lucky because it's almost, even though it's a big epic, it's still kind of contained. It's kind of like the story of Odysseus. It's one person's travel. We're following them the whole time. With the Ramayan, with the short film, what we want to do is we want to introduce the main characters. We have Ram, we have Lakshman, we have Sita, we have Ravan, we have Hanuman. Everyone else is important, but I think these are our 5 main characters. And so the way we've constructed the short, there's no spoilers in it, but we introduce them at these different moments where we see the humanity behind the people we've come to know as gods.
Okay.
That's kind of the thing we're trying to do different.
Are we seeing parts of the Ramayan? What are we seeing?
You're only going to see parts. In 20 minutes. How are we going to?
Will there be an end? Will it go somewhere? Or it's like a promo.
So I don't know if you're familiar with the short film experience, but most short films.
Everything about me is short. What are you saying?
The short films aren't necessarily supposed to give you the complete story.
Is it?
A lot of times it's supposed to leave you wanting for a little bit more, and that's what we're going to do with the Ramayan. Not to tease people too much, but we're going to give them enough to get them interested in trying to see a feature-length franchise in their mind, because that's the end goal. We want to start with the short film as a proof of concept.
And you guys should tell me off mic that 300 was done the same way?
Same way,
300 had a short film.
It was called 50 first, because they couldn't afford so many people.
Yeah, exactly.
Then they moved it up,
And basically what they did, they just had a very small, short fight sequence in there, just to get the look and feel of everything.
Right.
But since this story is so complicated, we want to tell a little bit of the story background, a little bit of the character background, so that way when we take it overseas, people can get a little bit into this world rather than just a visual glimpse.
Make a discerning audience appear, you need to sort of feed them first and get them into it and then slowly explain the whole thing. So then it goes into what? Part 2 will be like a television series? What is the...
Like a feature-length franchise. So 2.5 hour movies is the idea, to tell the whole Ramayan. Because the whole Ramayan's big and trying to squeeze it into one film would be too hard. So we want to start with a short film, prove to the world that we have, the vision for this, that people want to see the Ramayan on this level, and then also that audiences around the world are ready to consume English language Indian content.
Excellent. I think it's a very good idea. And if you're looking for crowdfunding, apparently, I have $1 which is outside there. I'll be sending my $1 in every way as possible. Please take it. I think it's great. I think that when these epics go out to a bigger audience, it makes the epic have more, more sense of epicness. If instead of being curtailed in one culture all the time.
I think that's the power we have right now with audiences, where people can go out. The technology's made it accessible, so anyone can go out and shoot a film.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an iPhone, you can go out and shoot, edit, and distribute a film on that one piece of device.
Fair enough.
Now, if we want to create something bigger, we don't necessarily need a big studio behind us right now. We can get an audience involved. We can get people directly to support the film if they want to go and see this. I think it's just this changing dynamic that Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and the Wishberries of the world have given us.
All right, I'll ask you one quick question. Are there any Indian actors from the States who are going to be considered? Like Kal Penn and a couple of guys who are on the fringe, like the guy from The Big Bang Theory, Kunal Nair. Although I don't know where to put him in the Ramayan. Dead body number 7 after battle.
When it gets to the feature, we're absolutely going to do that. We want to have a crossover cast. Even for Hanuman, I think it could be a really character to bring in, say, an American actor to come and play Hanuman. We'll have him in a mask, so it's but that way we have to think about that. In terms of the long-term vision, we definitely want to bring in some type of crossover cast, but not dilute it completely, so there's no Indians in an Indian film. Okay, we're going to take a quick break now, and we'll come back and talk some more. But one quick question as we go into break, which is, if you're looking for Ram and you need an alpha male to play that part, because after all, it is a very powerful, sort of role. I notice your voice is getting deeper.
Yes, it is, and I'm about to remove my clothing and show you more of the alpha male, but I would please consider it. Please consider it. I would do this at a very cheap rate.
During the break, we'll do a quick audition.
We will? Yeah. All right. All I have to say is Ram. Right.
I am Ram.
Stay where you are. We'll come back. It's Ronnie and Sean, and they're making the Ramayan this time the right one.
Cyrus says, stop picking your nose. Listen to this ad.
Now, if you want to listen to some brilliant indie music from all over the country, it's really simple. You can find me on Made in India. That's madeinindia.in. My name is May, and it's spelled M-A-E-D. Now, I've had some great artists on the show, including the likes of Nikhil D'Souza, The Cognac Net, Last Remaining Light, Tejas Menon, The Other People, Alicia Pays, Lakshmi Baum, Vasudha Sharma, Ankur Tiwari, and so many more. Now, if you want to subscribe, you can go to iTunes or Stitcher or your favorite podcast app, or you can find me on my website. That's madeinindia.in. That's M-A-E-D, or on Twitter and Facebook on Made in India.
All right, sipping coffee and chatting, a bit like that Seinfeld show, but with less sponsors and no people actually watching, but, the coffee's the same. Sean is with me, Ronnie is with me, and they grew up in Texas, as I said at the top of the show, met in Frisco, and making a film which is going to be an epic task, to use a pun, Ramayan, I think it's a very neutral vision, which is great. I think it's very difficult when you come from the culture to, not have a prejudice, because you're brought up in a certain way and you think in a certain way. Perhaps it's even better when an outsider tells a story, because he's got no axe to grind and he's got nowhere to go. So I would watch it. Now, I want to just go back and learn a little bit about your lives and introduce you to everybody who's listening. Let's start with Sean. You were a commercial and documentary filmmaker from San Francisco, and then you were initially going to be a diplomat before you went towards films. Tell us about that. What happened?
Well, this was back in college. I always, growing up, I always wanted to make movies, but I just saw it as kind of a pipe dream that only the movie stars get to do. And so I was going to go and do the right thing. So I was following a path towards diplomacy. I wanted to travel the world, do something worthwhile, but still get, make it part of my business to travel around. So that's why diplomacy was interesting. You can bridge gaps, you get to meet people, eat good food. Really, it's really all about food in my life for some reason.
But it's a huge change from diplomacy to making a film. But on the other hand, Ronnie apparently you had a brush with Hollywood. So the research I have in front of me, all of 6 lines tells me, you worked as creative director in a film?
So yeah, I was a director, editor, and cinematographer on a film, and
on a mainstream film?
No, it was a short film as well.
Okay.
So I made that, and Ron Howard picked it up, and it won a competition. And
the project, Imagination Film Festival, no less, and a sum of $250,000. And all you can eat at a Malaysian buffet. I'm just adding that to sound good.
I was like, whoa, that 250, I didn't see that.
Did you meet Ron Howard?
I did. He's a very humble man.
Appears to be. I've seen
so amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was he encouraging? Did he say, now come and work for me?
No, I wish. I kind of tried to ploy it in there.
But he say anything nice about the film?
He liked it.
What was the film about? In
a nutshell, think of you go about your daily lives, but something's about 2% off, like the air. You can't breathe the air. Everyone had to wear gas.
God, you're really an Indian. This is exactly how we feel. We cannot breathe this air.
So everyone had to wear gas masks.
What are you saying? This is so like us. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, you couldn't drink the water, so you had to drink bottled water.
My God, man! You are a desi boy!
So
amazing.
It was just this guy's daily life, and he had relationship problems, and it was just about his daily life.
It was a slice of life diary sort of film, is it?
Yeah, just set, like I said, 10% off.
Maybe Ron Howard has exactly the same problems. With all his money and success, he just can't breathe.
Yeah.
No idea. All right, you also directed commercials and were shortlisted at Cannes as well?
Yeah, so I shot a commercial for Cheetos last year.
Oh, Cheetos, if you want to be a sponsor, we'll say your name again. Huh?
Okay,
go ahead.
Cheetos. Taste the hunger.
Is that it?
No, something like
damn,
that.
You do he's got the baritone. Let him do the taste
the hunger.
Wow, I'm feeling hungry already.
Dangerously cheesy.
Oh God, no pun intended.
That was the tagline for the commercial. We got to work with the guy that does Chester's voice, and it was a great little commercial. And I got picked up by Cannes and got shortlisted.
So you directed and shot that?
I didn't shoot that, but I did direct that. Usually I shoot and direct my own stuff.
Your own films, yeah.
My own films, but I got the opportunity to have an amazing crew in San Francisco and got to work with them, and we got a nice little piece.
Did you go to Cannes?
I didn't get to go to Cannes.
Oh, because there's also the porno festival that precedes that, or is just after that?
Well, we're working on a side film that we might.
There you go. Just far away from the Ramayan. Please be careful. All right, let's go back to Sean. So you're a big fan of sci-fi and fantasy films growing up.
Yeah.
And I suppose these epics all have that fantasy, sci-fi. I mean, Avatar onwards, it looks like all these films will have a lot of this special effects and things going. Ramayan's filled with battles, so you can go to town on that.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, just imagine these huge army of monkey people. I mean, the closest thing we've seen is Planet of the Apes on this level.
Yeah.
And,
but how will you keep up? Because the technology has to get better and better, because we've seen the last example of a huge crowd fight and blah, blah, blah. As you said, Planet of the Apes. So how's that going to work out, the fight sequences? I say go back and make them look really bad.
That's exactly what we're going to do.
I think that's a great idea. Slow movement of the hand. And,
no blood, no action. It's just going to be people sitting with weapons, like, black and white talkies.
And then you got highlight of the battle. Slow motion, the whole thing.
Well, actually, you say that. We're actually trying to take some lessons from, our past. Going back to some original prosthetics instead of using just VFX. That's going to be one thing that I think we've kind of lost in this day and age, where we have all this technology, we have all this CGI and all this VFX, and we just throw it on screen and forget about story.
It's too quick for the eye sometimes.
Yeah.
You get that? I mean, you're a cinematographer, you probably understand better than all of us. You think you're too quick for your own good? It's too much happening in terms of fight sequences.
And it looks cheesy. It takes you out of the story.
Yeah.
I think. So, I mean, the recent Star Wars, I don't know if you watched it, but they went back to a lot of the traditional prosthetics. They built physical suits. They have things in front of cameras, and it looks real. Yeah. Even if it's far-fetched and it's sci-fi or anything like that. We're doing the same thing with Ramayan, where we want to make Hanuman a prosthetic Hanuman. He'll be a real monkey, man.
Like head to toe or just the face?
Head to toe.
Yeah.
So it'll be like those old Superman films or something where the whole thing's a bubble suit with things happening.
Maybe a little bit more realistic.
Oh, damn it.
Just a little bit.
Killing my dream. Because I miss the old Star Treks. I don't think you've ever seen the old 80s Star Trek with William Shatner and company.
Yeah, sure.
And they would have the phaser on stun, and the guy would do this really bad acting of being, electrocuted. And, he'll pulsate like a banana for a minute. But it had its own charm. And sometimes I feel, you've gone so far ahead, I can't catch up with what's happening across the Galactica. Yeah. And maybe somewhere in the middle is the answer.
I think somewhere between Lord of the Rings and the old Star Trek is where we're trying to land.
There you go. All right. Let's go back now. Once we're playing tennis here, I just want to ask one question each. You once held the world record, Ronnie, and this is. I wish it was visual.
I wish Sean didn't.
No, please. The whole world record for longest elbow skin.
Elbow skin, yeah.
Is this true?
It's true.
But what the hell is it? Why? How?
So it's called a Venus.
A Venus?
A Venus.
If you said that before, that'd be the top story of our show.
Sorry.
Okay.
So if you pull
Show me your Venus.
If you pull your elbow skin upwards.
Everybody listening is doing that. Just imagine
it's
right
very
now.
elastic.
Yeah.
So I held the world right. I think it was like 1.65 inches.
Your Venus is only 1.65 inches?
I'm sorry.
And you're proud?
Hey, that holds the world record. I don't care who you are. That's a world record.
Well, we Indians are a little bigger than that, boy.
Sorry.
1.65. I'm a good 1.7 when I'm sleeping. Yeah.
Well, in America.
Oh, there you go. Is that right wing or left wing? What are you showing us?
I think
Don't answer that. Yeah. So is this a serious record or are we kidding around?
It's serious. I went to this show.
Why would a cinematographer come, filmmaker to be, or what the heck? Why? How?
I was at a show and they were doing records.
Like a Guinness Book thing?
Kind of. It's called Record Setter, so it's just like random stuff.
I love these records. These are great. Imagine all your life you want to be somebody. You go back to your parents, I'm the world record holder for elbow skin. It's something.
Yeah. It's something. I have a patch and everything.
There you go.
There's a video.
Sean, what have you got?
Yeah. Sean, what's your
You
world
just got
record?
2 elbows, like everybody else.
I think I have world's coolest pro.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's official. It's in Ripley's.
He's a celebrity at the
he is?
gate of India, yeah.
Is that so?
He is.
We went out there when we first came just to tour around, and some people started to take photos.
Yeah.
And I think because they saw other people taking photos, and after 10-15 minutes,
there was a line.
huge crowd.
Like, camera,
they're hold my child.
Yeah,
I got so many children that day. So many parents were just handing me their children.
Yeah.
If anyone needs any children, I can apparently give them.
Don't say that. Too many children. Stop it. You'll have inundated with offers. Don't say that. Something in my too. Okay, back to Ronnie on Ron Howard. The first commercial was at Cannes. Saving Private Ryan is listed as your favorite movie.
It was the first movie that I didn't realize I was watching a movie. I got so absorbed into it, and I was like, this is the way it really happened, right? Like, Spielberg did such an amazing job in capturing the audience.
Switch over from the other old Spielberg films, the sharks and things.
Yeah, and I was sitting next to my mother, and she started crying during that opening scene. I was like, wow, movies have a real impact on people, and that was like the first time that I was like, okay.
My mother cries with me always when we watch a film together, but not because of the film.
Yeah.
So, I suppose at 44 you shouldn't be holding your mother's hand.
That's true. That's true.
People are different. All right, let's go up again to your favorite leisure activity is collecting the sights and sounds of India. This is before coming here?
This is an Indian bio.
Okay, somebody just put that in to make you sound more, into India. But there's also another thing which says that you are very good with Indian food, as in you cook and you make kick-ass chai, in your words apparently, and chicken tikka masala, our national dish in England.
I do.
Is that so?
Yeah,
so where do you pick that up?
I learned this back in San Francisco. I would say that Fremont, California has some of the best Indian food in the world.
Yes.
And if you haven't, go to Bismillah. Go to Bismillah in Fremont. No, honestly, I mean, I was out there. I was working on another Indian-American film, a crossover film about Indian immigrants.
What was it called?
It's called For Here to Go.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Did it release?
It's in theater. It's in award ceremonies right now. Festivals. Okay. Award ceremonies.
And any actor we know? Any Indian guys that we know?
There's Ali Fazal, Rajat Kapoor, Rajat Kapoor.
There are 7 Rajat Kapoors, but I'll just say yes to that. Then.
The old one that played Gandhi.
Oh, that Rajat Kapoor. Yeah. He's the one I know best. Oh. His sister and I went to class together. You want more? Oh, really? She married somebody else. It's a long story. We pause, we cry, we move on.
Well, you have kids now, so you're good.
But I don't know with who. One day I'll find out. So Kick-Ass Chai and Chicken Tikka Masala through this...
It was For Here to Go. That's honestly the thing. That movie experience taught me how to make chai and eat Chicken Tikka Masala.
So I can say, hand on heart, Sean, you are an Indophile. You really seem to like this country. Ronnie, I'm not so convinced. He likes Private Ryan. We usually watch with his mom. I don't want to go there. Okay, currently writing your first feature film, Ronnie. It's about growing up or lack. Isn't that the short film?
No, kind of.
It's sort of a longer version of that, is it?
Yeah, so I'm writing a feature film, and just my experiences over the years coming out of boyhood, I guess, and then stepping into adulthood, and realizing that even when you grow up, you kind of don't grow up, and seeing adults that are older than me doing mistakes that younger kids make, and it's an interesting take on kind of growing.
So you've already written this, or it's still a...
First draft's done, working on the second draft, nailing it down.
Any Indian characters that you need?
Actually, there's some Lost Boys in there, and they're from all over the world.
Excellent. So. Sign me up.
Okay.
Non-vegetarian, I eat everything. All right. By the way. All right. One last thing, though, in the bio, which I find a little fascinating. You were in Egypt, Sean, when the revolution broke out a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And were you actually there when they started fighting and all?
Yeah. So I was there fall 2010. Went there to work at an American University of Cairo. This is when I still wanted to go into diplomacy, and being in a country mid-revolution is the perfect time. It was in Jan. It was almost 4 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So it was so comfortable. I mean...
No, were you there when they were rioting and striking or whatever?
I lived right on Tahrir Square, so...
You joined the group, the young people?
I definitely went out there. I mean, it was fun. That's where I realized I wanted to just get on the ground with a camera and just start interviewing people, capturing stuff.
And you were the only one doing slogans in English. New government! It was like, oh, why? Wow! Really funny.
Yeah, but it was actually a lot of fun. I mean, they made it seem like it was worse than it was on TV. Granted, there were fires and explosions, and the military was on the streets, and the snipers.
But did you get a sense of?
But it was just, it felt they didn't really hate Americans. It wasn't like this anti-American sentiment. It wasn't this anti-foreign sentiment. It was just against their own government. So we felt.
But did you get a sense of democracy that people were trying to fight for, fighting a fascist regime or whatever? But did you get a sense of that?
Yeah, and how? By Twitter, through Facebook. This was the modern tools they were given, and that was what made the Arab Spring, Tunisia, in Egypt, and Libya, all of that happened because of the media. And I think that's where we have the power to do now with movies and TV shows, music.
Don't worry, your new movie is going to make a revolution in India happen very soon, which brings me to a very interesting question. What are the challenges of working here so far? I mean, be honest now. You've said all the good things about the country and all that. Now tell me the real truth. How painful is it, and are you on Imodium, which stops you going to the bathroom every 2 hours?
I mean, I'd say first off, just making a movie is a huge challenge upon itself. You have to get massive crews. I mean, what's our crew up to now? Maybe 50, 40?
Yeah.
And that's just before we're even in production. So it's managing all of that. And then on top of being in a new country, it's communication on top of that.
So how have you been dealing with the vendors in India when you deal with people or business and all? Has it all been straight up overboard? And
well, I mean, the great thing is we have a awesome team below. So there's, Abhinav Shivtavadi is one of our producers, and he's been making films out here for years. So when it comes to any type of communication with vendors, when
you've got an Indian go-between. So you have no idea where your money's going.
No, none whatsoever.
You're safe hands.
Well, there's no money anyway. So
no money yet. Crowdfunding coming through. I'm sure everything will be a big hit. Yeah. But as we go forward, can you tell us a little bit about the American elections, which are down the corner? Since we have 2 young men from America, I presume Democrats, because that seems to be the way all filmmakers go in America, and talk show hosts as well. What's your take on the elections? What's happening there?
It's a great show.
Yeah, it is.
Viewing it from here and not really having the mass crowd to talk to about it. Me and Sean talk about it every once in a while, but it's really interesting to view it from overseas, and it literally looks like a show.
But how is Mr. Trump getting so much traction and support? I was watching Hillary in the debates last week, and I've got to be honest, a little bit, just like the Indian politicians, overtly sincere comes across as insincere after a point. Yeah. And he, on the other hand, racist and bigot and all that, appears to be a little bit more straight up. Quite frankly, I'm just talking personality and not issues now for a second.
Yeah. Trump said this best himself. He said, if you do something weird, people will talk about it.
Yeah.
Trump has called himself the best show in the world. I think what he's doing right now is he's getting attention, and he will continue to get attention because we're literally talking about him right now.
There you go.
Crazy
And we're
shit
talking about him as the lead.
Yeah.
He's the non-politician. He's the lead in our conversation.
I think if anything, he's taking votes away from the Republican Party, and it's giving Bernie Sanders a chance.
You think?
We hope.
So you think Bernie Sanders is definitely going to take down Hillary Clinton in the face-off in the Democratic challenge?
I'd like to see it, but you know,
You'd like to
He's
see
the
it.
most qualified, I think.
Sorry?
He's the most qualified, I think.
Is he? Or is he-
intellectually, I mean, he doesn't have Bill behind him, but it's okay.
All kind of connotations, yeah. Fair enough. You can't live and die by Bill. You have to move on.
I mean, there's just certain examples you see, like in the debates. Bernie will call Hillary out on receiving a lot of money from Goldman Sachs, etc.
Right.
And you can just see her face, just kind of like this terror come over.
Surely
it.
she was
And he's-
prepared. There are 3-4 scandals, the email
Did you
thing,
see
the
the
thing
fact
with
that
She has to
Benghazi.
be prepared and doesn't go against it. Like, he's getting crowdfunding, just like we're trying to do. He's reaching out to real people that want
He's
the
climbed
real
up a
story.
bit. He's climbed up in the
This is
last
how
couple of
Obama
weeks.
got elected. You know, he reached out to people. He got people that don't traditionally vote active in the community. And I think that's where Bernie's doing. He's talking about the right things. He actually has a record of being consistent on his talking points. And he hasn't faltered from that over the past 40 years. So, if anything, he has conviction, which is something good in a leader to not go back and forth. And
So what you're saying is whoever wins the Democrat race is going to win. Is that it?
Yeah.
You don't expect much of a fight from the Republicans.
I think they're going to fight. I think they're going to raise a ruckus. And I unfortunately think that a lot of people aren't well enough versed with American politics to make good decisions when they go out to vote.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of speaking about this is getting really deep now. But
No,
I mean,
please.
yeah. Just when it comes to democracies, right? Like it's they say democracy is a terrible form of government. It's just better than all the rest.
Right.
You need an informed populace that can actually engage in the political process, and too often that is not really the truth. Even if you have everything made readily available, people just don't care when life gets a little too easy. So I think that's been a problem in American politics, and maybe we're seeing in other democracies around the world, where life has gotten so easy that the actual engaged voters that have power just aren't. Because
So the political consciousness switches off again, is what
Yeah.
you're saying, when things
Yeah.
are better. Which they are now, right, in America, because you're coming here to make a film.
no,
There you go. And do we pay you for crowdfunding in rupees or in dollars? Because that's a whole different thing.
you can do both. We're going to be launching it through Wishberry campaign. So
Couple of other questions. Are you going to have any music and dance? Because it's tradition in Indian film, we all break into dance every 8 minutes so people can go out and smoke. But is that going to happen in your version?
No,
No, not a single dance, not a single song?
I don't think so.
Oh, damn.
I'm pushing for it to not.
And are they going to have multiple endings, different options, or is it going to be the traditional? This is a tricky question, but honestly,
I don't know about this.
multiple endings
as in, a different sort of ending from different perspective. There are a couple.
for like different markets, or
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I mean, in terms of the way we're releasing is going to be, after we go through the festival circuit, plan is to release it online. This is looking at where we're consuming our content now. Sure, we're going to the theaters, and the plan for the feature films is to put them in theaters. But for the short film, and where are people consuming content now? It's online. It's on our phones. It's sitting, maybe even watching an Apple Watch. But I think it's, looking at where we can release it. And when it comes to releasing online, you want one version. You want one version that everyone can see. We'll dub it. We'll, have subtitles so that people in different countries can watch it and enjoy it. But I think get one story right. Share that one story. Get an audience into one film.
All right, so it's one cohesive story for now, and we'll see what happens later when you make versions of it.
Yep.
But as we end the show, if I'm a young actor who wants to be part of your production, you haven't started shooting, right?
Not
Shooting
yet.
is still about to happen.
Yeah.
Is there any way they can contact you?
Yeah, if you go to RomaineFilm.com, you'll see everything about what we're doing. You'll have our contact information.
All
You'll
right.
see our pretty pictures on there. Maybe.
So RomaineFilm.com, Sean and Ronnie are making the ultimate Ramayan film. Money is great, conditions are fantastic, 18 hours a day with no sleep, and you get fed every third day.
Every
So
day.
at the end of it, you really look like you're in the Ramayan.
Yeah.
All right. We have to go to the AMAs before we say bye to Ronnie and Sean, and to take us through the AMAs is the one and only Amit.
Cyrus says, ask me anything. If you want Cyrus to answer your questions on air, send an email to whatcyrussays@gmail.com. If you send us a link to a sound file on SoundCloud, we'll even play you asking the question in your own voice. And that's what Cyrus says.
All right, Sean Allman. Sorry, they were married.
That's
I'm
okay.
so sorry. Sean
We're
Graham.
married now,
You
so-
are. Ronnie Allman, Sean Graham, filmmakers, with a very interesting take, making the Ramayan, their version, being true actually to the Tulsidas version.
Yeah, we're basing it off of Valmiki's version.
Valmiki's version, and then a little bit of Tulsidas's version. And then
If you call it Lakshman Rekha Tulsidas, we'll call it Tulsidas.
Okay, now he's testing me, making me feel inadequate. This is how my wife makes me feel every night. Stop it! All right, time for the EMA with the wonderful Amit Doshi.
All right. So I got fairly interesting kind of question slash.
This means it's rubbish.
Well,
when you
no,
set it
no,
up like that, it's a waste of time. Start
it's,
reading.
it's actually kind of, so it's basically about how we do the show, right? So I mean, like, hello to everyone on Cyrus Says. First, let me inform you that I'm a huge fan of your podcast. I eagerly wait for episodes on every Thursdays. By the way, we're on Mondays as well now, so Mondays and Thursdays. You can get on both days. This podcast...
They're ecstatic.
I know.
You made their life. They're calling home. He's doing the Bhangra. I wish we could show them. Can you do the Bhangra?
No.
Oh, damn.
Alright, the podcast was nirvana for me after searching for some true Indian content. I enjoy your show and can only ask for longer episodes. However, I've noticed since the last few episodes you've completely eliminated the news and views section. I'm totally unaware if your guests or your guests cover some of the current topics and share their opinions. Please, I'll be more than happy if you continue with a small section like this as you did in your earlier podcast. Other than that, great going. Hope this podcast ends.
All right, so what we have here is, we'll time date what we're doing.
Right.
We had Hollande of France down for the Republic Day a few days back in India.
That is true.
And
Yes.
he and Mr. Modi held hands and discussed
They
things.
went in the metro together, right?
They went in the metro together.
I saw that picture.
A lot of pensive pictures of pensive pain and anguish for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's the metro.
No, it was the air deal didn't go through or something, right? That's what
It is going through from what I
It is
gather.
going through? I thought it wasn't going
Everything
through.
is a work in progress in the third world.
Right.
Everything will happen. But yeah, they seemed very deep in thought. Either that or, medication is always an issue and should be taken seriously.
No, but I mean, the reason why we stopped doing those was because it dates the show.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
well,
that's the thing.
Honestly, for most people, if you ask them, well, when is Republic Day? They say Tuesday. You've got to understand. It's
No,
not
exactly,
perspective.
right. So, I mean, that's the reasoning behind it. I mean,
Well, let's ask them, were you exposed to Republic Day, guys?
We were
Did you
in
see
a
the
rickshaw
parade?
for most of it, and we worked most of the day. But
Historically, it's a dry day. That's all you need to know. You cannot drink
did know
for
that.
some reason.
Did you get some invitations to some dry day drinking parties?
Yeah, so
To break the tradition, yes.
That's exactly what
This is
happens,
exactly
right?
what upmarket India does.
No, but that's what that's why the dry days are the stupidest things ever, right? Because I mean, everybody, you wind up drinking more on a dry day than you do on another day. I mean,
Yeah, you do it almost because you want to now, like a petulant boy. It's wrong.
It's just that, right? You're not going to let me drink. Screw you. I'm going to drink.
All right, we've lost both our American listeners. They packed their bags and said, I don't want to know more about this culture. Next.
All right, the next one we have is, do you remember how to pronounce, well, if I say it, then you won't ask, the chef from the Sassy Spoon who had come over with us?
Yeah.
How do you pronounce his last name?
Yeah. It's, give me a second. It's right there. Boy, Irfan, you mean man. Let them try. I won't try. Let the American guests try. That'll be more
Let's see if you
fun.
guys can pronounce this name.
He's a famous chef in India. Irfan is his first name, which is fairly common.
Pabani?
Okay, not bad.
What do you think?
Sean? Irfan
It looks like Pabani. Pabani.
Pabani. Now I've absolutely forgotten it. I will never remember it. They've screwed it up forever.
Sorry, Irfan.
Oh my God.
I should have said it in a Texas accent.
That's really bad. You do it in a Texas accent. Then let's try.
Pabani.
Pabani. From now on, that's his name because we like it.
All right, cool. That's all we
That's
got.
it. All right. All the best to Sean and Ronnie, and the film will be called The Ramayan, right? Mm-hmm. And it'll be out in 2016 towards the end of the year.
Well, actually, with the short film, we want to release it for Diwali, just in time.
Just in time for the big fireworks of Diwali.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, that's cool.
Ram will return.
There you go.
Ram
will return, and then return again in a bigger version the year after.
You're listening to Cyrus Says.
All views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily the views and opinions of the IndusVox Media Network or any of our show advertisers or sponsors. No animals were harmed in the making of this podcast, obviously.
All right, watch film critic and writer, my personal friend Anirudh Guha, who's always in a good mood. He talks about the films and TV shows that have changed his dietary preferences and made him into a nervous wreck. Anirudh Guha, with a G. That's Ganirudh. Check it out on ivmpodcast.com.